My name is Emma. I'm 38 years old. How dare you? Diane's voice pierced through my son's elementary school gymnasium like a siren. Parents and children turned, staring. After everything I've done for you. Her perfectly manicured finger jabbed at my chest, each poke emphasizing her words. You ungrateful witch. My 8-year-old son, Tyler, gripped my hand tighter, his eyes wide with fear. His school play costume, a little prince outfit we'd worked on together for weeks, spending countless nights with the sewing machine, crumpled under his trembling hand. His older sister, Sophie, 11 years old and already too perceptive for her age, moved protectively closer to her brother. In that moment, watching my children's faces, something in me snapped. You stole from me, mother, I whispered, my voice deadly calm despite the tears threatening to spill. You stole my grandmother's legacy and made me pay rent on my own apartment for 10 years. The gymnasium fell silent. Even the teachers who'd been setting up props for the play had stopped, their attention drawn to our drama unfolding on the sidelines. Lies. Diane shrieked, her face contorting with rage. Everything I've done has been for this family. You're the one destroying it. I reached into my purse and pulled out the manila envelope, the one that had changed everything. Really? Then explain this. Flashback. 10 years earlier, the beginning. I know you're struggling with the divorce, Emma, mother had said, patting my hand across her pristine kitchen table. The afternoon sun streamed through her spotless windows, casting a warm glow that felt ironically cold. But I have a solution. Remember Grandma Margaret's apartment? I inherited it after she passed, but you can rent it. I'll give you a family discount. I was 28 then, newly separated from Jason with 2 small children. Tyler just a baby and Sophie barely walking. The divorce proceedings were draining my savings faster than water through a sieve, and Jason's sporadic child support payments weren't nearly enough to cover daycare, diapers, and the mountain of bills that seemed to grow daily. Are you sure? I'd asked, guilt creeping into my voice. I mean, it's your property now. Oh, honey, she'd smiled, that practiced smile I now recognize as calculated manipulation. What's family for? Besides, it needs someone to take care of it. Grandma would have wanted you to have a stable home for the children. I'd felt tears of relief welling up. Mom, I don't know what to say. Thank you. She'd waved her hand dismissively. The rent will be $800 a month. That's less than half the market rate for that neighborhood. But I'll need a proper lease agreement. You know how I am about paperwork. Flashback. Childhood memories. My mother, Diane, had always been about appearances. A former real estate agent with 3 failed marriages behind her, she knew exactly how to make people see what she wanted them to see. I was 10 when I first noticed how she manipulated situations. How she cried poverty to relatives while secretly buying designer bags and hiding them in her closet. Your grandmother doesn't understand our struggles, she'd tell me whenever Grandma Margaret questioned her spending habits. Meanwhile, Margaret, my sweet, observant grandmother, would slip me money for school supplies that Mother had forgotten to buy, or new shoes when mine had holes because Mother had spent the money on herself. I remember one particular incident when I was 12. Mother had told Grandma we couldn't afford my school field trip, but that same week, I found a receipt for a $300 spa day in her purse. When I confronted her, she'd snapped. Mind your own business, Emma. Adults have needs too. Present day, 2 weeks before the school play. The discovery that changed everything happened on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. I was searching for Tyler's baby photos for his school project, a family tree assignment that required pictures from each generation. The attic was dusty, filled with boxes of memories I rarely had time to sort through. Between work, the kids' activities, and managing our daily chaos, organizing old photos had always been at the bottom of my priority list. As I pulled out an old photo album labeled Emma's First Years, a manila envelope fell from between its pages. It was sealed, with my grandmother's distinctive handwriting on the front. For Emma. Important documents. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a document that would shatter my world. Grandmother Margaret's last will and testament. As I read the words, my knees gave out, and I sank to the dusty attic floor. To my beloved granddaughter Emma, I leave the apartment at 247 Oak Street with the hope that it will provide her with the security and independence she deserves. My apartment. The one I'd been paying rent on for a decade. Flashback. After grandmother's death. The memory of that day came flooding back with painful clarity. It was a rainy afternoon, 3 days after grandmother Margaret's funeral. The family had gathered in mother's living room, the same room where she later offered me the apartment deal. The will reading was straightforward. Mother had announced to the assembled relatives, holding a stack of papers. Mother left everything to me. She trusted me to take care of the family. I remembered Rachel, my older sister, nodding eagerly from her position beside mother on the sofa. She'd always been mother's shadow, never questioning, always following, always hoping to stay in her good graces. Didn't Grandma leave anything for us? I'd asked timidly, still raw from losing the one person who truly understood me. Mother's eyes had narrowed dangerously. Emma, don't be greedy. I'll make sure you're taken care of. Your grandmother knew I would distribute things fairly. I'd felt Uncle Tom shift uncomfortably in his chair, but he'd said nothing. No one ever challenged Diane. Present day. The investigation begins. With shaking hands, I'd called a lawyer that very afternoon. Miss Roberts, recommended by a colleague at work, listened to my story with growing indignation. This is fraud, plain and simple, she'd said, reviewing the will I'd found. Your mother not only concealed your inheritance, but profited from it. We need to gather evidence, bank statements, the lease agreement, everything. Over the next 2 weeks, I methodically collected documentation. 10 years of rent payments, totaling $96,000. 10 years of utilities, maintenance costs, and the emotional toll of struggling to make ends meet while living in my own property. Ms. Roberts calculated additional damages for the fraud and emotional distress. Meanwhile, I continued my daily routine, but everything felt different. Every time I walked through my apartment, I noticed details I'd overlooked before. The crown molding grandmother had loved, the built-in bookshelf she had installed specially, the window seat where she used to sit and read to me as a child. Flashback. Life in the apartment. The early years in the apartment had been a constant struggle. I worked 2 jobs, administrative assistant during the day and waitressing on weekends, while trying to be present for my children. Rachel would occasionally visit, always dressed in expensive clothes, always with a new car or jewelry. You're so lucky Mom gave you such a deal on this place, she'd say, oblivious to my exhaustion. I don't know why you're always complaining about money. I'd bite my tongue, remembering the times I'd had to choose between groceries and Tyler's asthma medication, or skip meals so the kids could eat. All while paying rent on an apartment I actually owned. The irony wasn't lost on me that Mother had insisted on everything being proper and documented, except, apparently, when it came to executing her own mother's will. Present day. The school play. The day of Tyler's school play arrived with spring sunshine and nervous excitement. Tyler had been practicing his lines for weeks, and I'd promised him the whole family would be there to support him. I'd even invited Mother and Rachel, hoping to maintain some semblance of normalcy until the legal proceedings were finalized. I arrived early, the manila envelope with copies of the will and legal documents tucked in my purse. My plan was simple: watch Tyler's play, celebrate his performance, and then have a private conversation with Mother afterward. But plans rarely survive contact with reality. Mother arrived with Rachel in tow, both dressed as if attending a society gala rather than an elementary school production. Diamond earrings caught the gymnasium lights, and designer handbags swung from their arms. They air-kissed other parents, making a show of being the perfect family. When Tyler ran over in his prince costume, beaming with excitement, Mother barely glanced at him. Emma, we need to talk about your rent, she announced loudly, ensuring nearby parents could hear. You're 2 days late. Again. This is becoming a pattern. The humiliation was intentional. She'd always used public settings to manipulate me, knowing I'd be less likely to make a scene. But not this time. Actually, Mother, we need to talk about the 10 years of rent you've stolen from me. Her face went pale, then red. What are you talking about? I pulled out the envelope. Grandmother's will. The one you hid from me. The one that left me the apartment you've been charging me rent for. The confrontation escalated. This is neither the time nor the place, Mother began, but I cut her off. You're right. The time was 10 years ago when you lied to everyone about grandmother's will. The place was the lawyer's office where you committed fraud. Parents were openly staring now. Tyler clutched my leg, confused and scared. Sophie stood beside us, her young face set in determination. How dare you? Mother's composure cracked completely. After everything I've done for you. I took care of you, gave you a place to live, you charged me rent on my own property. My voice rose to match hers. You watched me struggle, work 2 jobs, skip meals, all while living in the apartment grandmother left to me. Rachel stepped forward, her face a mask of false concern. Emma, please. Let's discuss this privately. You're making a scene. Oh, now you care about scenes? I laughed bitterly. Where was this concern when you flaunted your shopping sprees, funded by grandmother's money? When you took vacations while I worked overtime to pay rent on my own apartment? The truth unveiled. Mother tried one last manipulation. Emma, sweetie, there's been a misunderstanding. I was going to tell you eventually. I was just waiting for the right time. 10 years, Mother. You had 10 years of right times while I paid you $800 every month. While I worried about making ends meet. While you and Rachel lived off what grandmother left us. The gymnasium had gone completely silent. Even the children backstage had stopped their nervous giggling. Tyler's teacher approached hesitantly. Perhaps we should take this conversation outside? She suggested gently. But I was done being gentle. Done being manipulated. Done being silent. No, I said firmly. My son is about to perform in his play, and I'm going to watch him. Mother, Rachel, you can leave. My lawyer will be in touch. The aftermath. Legal battle. The next 3 months were a whirlwind of legal proceedings. Mother tried every trick in her arsenal, tears, threats, attempts to turn family members against me. She called relatives, spinning tales of my ingratitude and greed. Rachel called daily, alternating between pleading and accusations. Think of what you're doing to the family, she'd say. Mother made a mistake, but she's still our mother. What family? I'd respond. The one that watched me struggle as a single mother while spending my inheritance? The one that treated me like a tenant in my own home? Uncle Tom, surprisingly, came forward. I always suspected something wasn't right, he admitted. Margaret told me before she died that she was leaving something special for you. When Diane announced she got everything, it didn't sit right, but I didn't want to cause trouble. His testimony, combined with the documented evidence, made our case airtight. The court ordered Mother to repay $180,000, 10 years of rent plus damages. She had to take out loans, sell her luxury car, and liquidate some of her hidden assets. Rachel, who had been living off Mother's generosity funded by my rent payments and her own inheritance, suddenly found herself having to get a real job. Resolution. New beginnings. The day the money was transferred to my account, I sat in my apartment, truly my apartment now, and cried. Not tears of joy, but of release. 10 years of struggle, of doubting myself, of wondering why I couldn't make ends meet despite working so hard. It all made sense now. I used part of the money to set up college funds for Tyler and Sophie. Another portion went to paying off debts accumulated during those lean years. The rest I saved, determined never to be in such a vulnerable position again. Epilogue. 6 months later. Sunday morning sunlight streams through the apartment windows as I sit in Grandmother Margaret's reading chair. Tyler and Sophie are in the kitchen, attempting to make pancakes. There's more flour on them than in the bowl, but their laughter fills the space with joy. We've redecorated together, making the apartment truly ours while keeping elements that remind us of grandmother. Her books still line the built-in shelves, but now they're mixed with the children's favorites and my own collection. The window seat has new cushions that Sophie picked out, bright and cheerful. Mom, Tyler calls from the kitchen. Did Grandma Margaret really leave this place just for us? I smile, joining them at the counter. She left it for us because she wanted us to have a home. A real home that no one could take away. Sophie, wise beyond her years, adds, and because she knew we'd take care of it, right? Exactly. I hug them both, flower and all. My phone buzzes occasionally, Mother and Rachel still try to contact me, swinging between apologies and accusations. But I've learned to ignore them. Some relationships, I've realized, are too toxic to maintain, even with family. Last week, while cleaning out a closet, I found another box of grandmother's things. Inside was a letter addressed to me, dated just weeks before she died. My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, you found the truth. I always knew your mother's nature, which is why I took precautions. The apartment is yours, a sanctuary from those who would use you. Be strong, my dear. Trust your instincts, and know that I loved you more than words can say. All my love, Grandmother Margaret. I keep the letter in my bedside drawer, a reminder that sometimes the truth has a way of coming out, even if it takes a decade and a few fallen books to reveal it. As I watch my children covered in flour, laughing and creating memories in the home that's truly ours, I realize that grandmother's real legacy wasn't just the apartment. It was the strength to stand up for myself and the wisdom to build a better future for my children. The morning sun catches the gold lettering on one of grandmother's books. Truth always prevails. I smile, knowing that sometimes it just needs a little help.